Sometimes, wouldn't it just be great to be able to draw on your screen? Now, I'm not saying take your Crayola, and draw on your screen. Don't do that. This is not the way to do this. However, I do have a way for you to do it safely on your screen and share it for meetings with your team, or if you're doing any kind of teaching or educating, which I guess is the same thing, or if you're hanging out with your friends and family. Like, there's a lot of different ways that you could use this type of a tool once you get your hands on it. So I am going to show you how to do this. This is a Mac and a PC solution. It's not on Chromebook yet, but I'm going to show you how to use this, and I'm going to tell you how to get it. And if you're watching this within 30 days or so of when I do this, you can also get 30% off. So bonus. All right, let's get the party started. All right, we love a deal here. Okay, so sometimes, when you're sharing your screen, whether it's, hanging out with friends and family, because that's what we've been doing for a while now, right? Or if you're in a meeting, or you're just collaborating with somebody, or if you're teaching, any kind of stuff like that, there's a lot of good reasons and a lot of times when you're going to want to be able to draw on the screen. For example, something as simple as just like keeping people's attention, or, helping people to focus on the area that you want them to look at, or the area that you're talking about, to provide additional information or context, to highlight something that you're talking about, or to clearly explain changes and adjustments and that type of thing. So there's a lot of reasons why you might want to use a tool like this. And I've tried a bunch of them over the years now. Anybody who's been around for a while, my love of the stylus, right? And I'm using this on my computer, right? So I've got my trusty Wacom tablet here. But I've also always been buying any kind of thing with a touchscreen, right? Or like my Surface Pro, the convertible laptops back in the day, regular tablets, and then of course, when it comes to our devices. So I'm always, for me, if it's got anything that I can hold like a pencil, I am happy about that. But while, you're going to have to keep your kids from using like crayons on your screens, and you don't want to use crayons on your screen. Yes, I'm even talking about don't do like those erasable markers or anything. This is a tool that will work, and it will work wherever. So the reason that this is important is because there are some solutions out there that will work just inside the browser. And if that's all you need, that's great. But that doesn't work for me because obviously I do a lot of teaching. I do a lot of training on software. And so having a tool like this makes life a lot easier. What the heck am I talking about? Let me actually show you what we're talking about here, okay? So we don't need my name there, but we could possibly have that here. Okay, so this is the tool. This is Epic Pen. Okay, and it's just this little thing, and you can even make this like, hide and show, and if you've got multiple screens, you can have it off the screen and still use it on screen. But for the purposes of our time together, let me show you what it's talking about. So this is it. You install this, it goes into your system tray, so you can bring it on and up, on and off as you want it. But basically what I'm talking about is this kind of thing, right? So you've got this, and I'm gonna pick a color. Sorry. Right? And I can squiggle, right? Or I can draw arrows, and I can change the color, and I can do this kind of thing. Or I can go here and do this kind of thing. So this is basically what we're talking about in a nutshell. And some examples of how you might use that. So a lot of people are used to seeing this kind of a thing, for example, in something like let me see if this will work today. That's not going to work today, is it? Let me try it this way. I'm sorry. I've been doing a lot of remote production, and so my systems are not working for me, ironically. So the idea is that you install this, right? And then you put it wherever you want. I'm going to leave it on screen for the purposes of our demo here. But a lot of people are familiar with this kind of thing from the sports world, right? So telestrating, right? So we've all watched John Madden or, whoever else, do this kind of thing, or, a coach or whatever. And, maybe the post game, or you're prepping for the next game, or you're reviewing the plays, right? And so this is where we're used to seeing this kind of thing, right? You see this drawn on the screen kind of thing. And it's a fairly common thing in, any kind of sports situation. Oh, look, I've got a little grass underneath me because I haven't fixed my camera. But that's what we're used to seeing this kind of thing in. What I'm talking about is being able to do it in all kinds of things, right? So, like, for example, I'm getting ready to do a training on this. Okay, really, this is now going to bother me. Sorry, give me 2 seconds to fix this. Because I installed it, I've been busy. So I installed a new monitor. And because I installed a new monitor, I had to move my camera, which means that things are not where they're supposed to be right now. So here, let's get this. All right, there we go. That's a little bit better. That's more what we're talking about. Okay. So, matter of fact, let me save that so I have it for later. So when I'm doing demos and things, if I'm doing it live, I definitely need this. If I'm doing it, and I'm going to record it and edit later, you can do this kind of thing in post, right? So in your editing software. But for me, it's just a time saver to be able to do it here. So these are the different tools, but this is how I would use it, right? So I would take this and maybe I'd take this. And so like if I'm talking about the all-in-one feature, I can focus people on that while I'm talking about it, right? Or if I start talking about the presets or, then you hit this button. I don't have to just say the button. I don't have to wave my mouse over it, right? I can actually draw things to make it show up for people. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the important stuff of keeping the focus, making it easy for people to understand what you're talking about and show them what you can do. So one of the many reasons I love this particular tool is it's really reasonably priced. It works on Mac and on PC, which is always a win in my book. I don't like things that are on one side of the fence or other. I prefer things that are agnostic. Now, it does not work on Chromebooks, but we're asking, so hopefully someday. As it works if you're a stylus user, right? Or if you're a mouse user. I do have a mouse here, right? So it works from a mouse. It works with stylus. If you're on a touch device, you can use your finger. So whatever works best for you in the situation you're in, this thing works with it, which is lovely. And like I mentioned, it does work across different things. So here, let me bring up an example of what I'm talking about because I know context is helpful. Oh shoot, I closed that window. That was dumb. Okay, hang on one sec. Let me just bring something else up here. Okay, so let's see. So we got 2 things here. All right, I'm going to bring this back over. So there are things that will work just inside of a browser, right? So you can do that, and you can talk about Google, and you can draw on Google. Whoops, what have I had that selected? Okay, right? But what I love about this is the fact that I can do this kind of thing or this kind of thing. So I'm not locked into anything. Anything that's on my screen, I can draw on top of. And that is so freeing because I did try to use just a browser solution because let's face it, most of the stuff that we use these days is in a browser. But I kept running up against this wall because I wanted to do something else or I wanted to draw something else, right? So this way, I am not limited at all. I can do whatever I want. I can give this little creature hair here. I can do anything that I like because I'm the one who's deciding where this works. And it just makes it so smooth and easy. So let's run through what is available in this tool. Let me kind of get some of this stuff out of the way so I'm not distracting you. Okay, so at the top here, you've got this little eye thing, and all that does is make this open or close. Or we can actually just do this like this. So that way it just opens and closes, and you have control. You can move this wherever you want on the screen. And like I said, I can have it off screen. So if I move it onto a different monitor, I can still come here and draw for you folks here by having it off. So it kind of depends on your use case, what's going to work best for you. But like I said, since we're talking about this, I should show it to you. So we have that. Okay. This is how you go back. So when you select a tool, that's how you're actually doing this kind of thing. And then you can come back here. You can leave this up here, but this gives you back control of your mouse again to use it like a mouse. And when you've got a tool selected, then it works as whatever drawing tool you're using, right? And then you go back to this in order to move this around, so on and so forth. So that gives you all of that. So we have the pen, we have this highlighter, right, which is kind of a softer. And then you can also do text, right? So you can come here and you can say hello and type out the text. Because if you're like me and your handwriting is maybe not so hot, right? I could do hello. But I think we all agree that this is easier to read than this. I think we can all be on the same page about that, right? So those are those tools here. And then you have just like shapes. So anything that's got a little triangle down here, that means there's more options. So you can pick a straight line, right? And you can do it, whatever direction. You can anchor it and then draw it wherever you want. If you hold shift, it makes it a little bit more precise in the angles that you're getting out of it. Then you can also select this and you can do circles, right? Or oblongs, ovals. That's what I was looking for, ovals. You can do triangles, okay, like that, or like this, or rectangles. You can do arrows. So if you're not looking to maybe do hand-drawn arrows, and you want a more precise arrow, you can go ahead and use this. And down here, these are all your colors, and you can just keep changing colors whenever you want and draw all of the arrows you want. That's those here. This is the eraser. So the eraser, it doesn't remove parts of what you've drawn, but it will remove whatever the shape is that you drew. So an individual one, or if they're pretty close together, it'll take a grouping of them away. So that's one way to clear things up. We'll get into that. So those are your basic tools. Now you're like, well, what about I want to do things in different shapes and sizes, or maybe, different, well, you got the different colors here. So if you come up here, right, and on any of these tools, anything above this dot is controlled by the dot. So I was in sort of a middle size, but I can go very large, right? Or I can come here and do very small and do everything in between. And that works for any of the things that you're going to pick. So, even the same, like if you go with, the highlighter, here we'll do the highlighter color, right? That's that size. That's that size. The same thing, that's how you will also adjust the text size. So if you go here and you've got the text, let's go with something that'll show up, right? So right now I'm on a small size, right? So you see it's very tiny, but then if I go here, then I've got big letters. So you've got a lot of flexibility in this tool without having to overthink anything. You're not having to pick fonts and do 1,000 things that would distract you from whatever it is that you're working on or you're sharing at the moment. But you've got all these tools that you can use to put this extra information up or just control the flow of where people are looking as you're explaining things. And a lot of times that helps people with the context, because if they're busy trying to figure out where your cursor went, they're not listening to what you're talking about. So this makes it much, much easier. All right, so let's talk now about cleaning up. Oops. Put that back over here. So now you've got all this stuff on your screen and you're like, yes, Kath, but now I don't want all this stuff on my screen. And that's okay, because what you do is you come in here and my screen just froze. Yay. Thanks, screen. Okay, give me a second. Let me see if I can get my screen to come back. Well, you know what? We can change to a different screen. How about that? We can be all kinds of flexible here. So let's go here. I just have to switch things around for a second here. One sec. The most perfect demos. We were rolling along, and then it all went bad. Hang on a sec. I'm going to try restarting the app to see if that helps. Let's see. Let's try that, shall we? I am asking my machine to do an awful lot at the moment. Let's see, is that... Okay, there we go. We're good. Let me switch you back to that screen. It's a definitely a first world problem. I have way too many monitors right now. But now we can focus again. So let me back up. So let me draw. Let's just put some stuff on the screen. Different colors. Right, because that's what's going to happen. As you're going through, you're going to do this kind of stuff, and you're going to get all kinds of stuff up on your screen. Thank you for sharing, Murphy. Right? And then you're going to be like, but I now need my screen back. Well, that's super easy, because all you have to do is come down here to the trash can and make everything go away. If you didn't want that, if you did that too fast, you hit this little back arrow, and it brings everything back. And again, like I said, you can click up here and take the eraser and just remove individual pieces if that's what you want to do. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's actually a lot of fun to do. But it's amazing how much clarity you get out of something like this. So I use this kind of stuff in meetings all the time because the constant theme in my life is everybody's in a meeting and everybody's, either arguing or they're agreeing, but I can tell from the way that they're talking and acting or reacting or the questions they're asking that they're actually not all on the same page. The best way to get everybody on the same page is to show them the page, have everybody looking at it, and then go ahead and move things around and mark things up. So let me show you an example of that. So let's go to the actual site for this company. Let me bring this here and do that. Okay, so just as an example, let's say you were having a meeting about your website or an application, or maybe you're having somebody build a website for you, right? And so you can have a conversation and talk about the changes, or you can do something like this where it's like, okay, you're a designer or your programmer, built it for you. And you're like, yeah, but I don't like the way this looks. Okay, well, that does not really help them understand. But if you could fire up a tool like this and say, let's pick something. I don't like this text on here. Now it's very specific, right? Everybody in this meeting now knows exactly what you're not happy with. And, you can take that even farther to do other things. So maybe you're like, all right, I do like this other thing. Let me make this a little smaller. But maybe I want the text here and I want the image here. Saying those words causes confusion. Saying those words while you're drawing makes it perfectly clear to everybody. So this is absolutely critical for clarity when you're working with other people online. And, in our new world, remote has been around for a long time and has worked. Now it's everywhere, right? All the arguments anybody ever had about remote not working, yeah, those are over. I just had that conversation with somebody yesterday. It's like, no, for 2 years we've been keeping your business running and your profits have increased. And no, I don't need to come sit in your office anymore. So, obviously, once in a while maybe, but the reality is that this is how things get done. And you know what, especially for the work that I do, but for a lot of people now, you're not all in the same place, right? I work with a global team for some projects. They're never going to fly us all together. Not going to happen. As much as I would like to go to Ireland or England, it's not going to happen. So all this kind of stuff does help to make things more clear, to keep everybody on the same page. Yes, Jason, I'm starting to play with some swag. That's what so for the people who I was showing off during the countdown, but I've been playing with things. So yes, there will be stuff coming. Okay, so this is why this type of thing is really good. So let me show you a little bit more about the actual tool itself. Bring this back here, and we will switch back. So basically, this is your visibility. This is I want my mouse to work again. These are your main tools, these things at the top here, right? This is your eraser. This is for sizing. This is undo. This is to clean things up, the little trash can. We'll get to this in a minute, and we'll get to that in a minute. But here's the other thing that you're going to need, and that is your settings. So this gives you a fair amount of flexibility. So you can set your preferences. You can change your mind about it. It's got different languages. So not only is it operating system agnostic, it's language agnostic. You can come in here and you can set your default colors. So you see down here, I have these colors, but let's say I really wanted that to be a gray. I can change that to a gray. Let's say I wanted it to be more of that color, or, whoops. No. Okay, this is my machine not being happy. It just shut it down, and I did not tell it to shut it down. Oh, yes. You gotta be flexible if you're gonna live stream. Okay. So when you're in the settings, you have control. So this little panel of colors down here. So the big block tells me which color I currently have selected. But you can come in here, and if you prefer different colors, you can just come and click on a color, and you can change it. Let's see. How about that? And make those your default colors. So that's super easy. We'll talk about those in a second. And then you can also set hotkeys. So that's really helpful. And the more you use this tool, the more you're going to want the hotkeys, because instead of having to come over here and remember to switch back to your cursor or to, remove everything from the screen, you can set hotkeys for all of those things, and you can customize them to whatever you want. They default to their default recommendation. You can customize these to work however you want and be good to go. So lots of flexibility, lots of cool things to do. There's also, which I love, they've actually included help. So when you open this, you can go directly to their tutorial, the FAQ, you can reach support. And what this does is this opens it up in your browser. So super easy. All right, let me make sure I've got all of that covered. Okay, so pretty cool, right? I mean, right off the top, right? It does everything you need it to do. It'll work wherever you need it to work. You have total control over how things are working. So it's really a lot of fun, and it's super, super functional. And it's lightweight, despite the fact that I'm having problems. That's because I've had too many meetings on this machine today, and so it's a little unhappy. I'm going to have to reboot it. But that's me. That's not the tool. This tool is very lightweight. I have run this with all kinds of complicated setups, and it's never, ever been a problem. So it's all good that way. However, there is more. And so let me just show you that, like, this is really not, I mean, I know I say a lot that, a tool is well priced. This is really well priced, folks. Here, one sec. Okay, so, because at this point, somebody's probably going, but yeah, how much? Okay, so, how much? How does free sound? So, for free, you get the basic functionality out of it, which is the drawing and all that kind of stuff that I've been talking about. And for most people, that's all you'll ever need. And it's free. When they say free, they mean free. It's free forever. Now, this is defaulting to PC because it's identified that I'm on a PC, but it is Mac and Windows. But they do have Pro, okay? So you can get a paid version of it, which gives you some additional functionality, right? So some of the tools that I was using, like the text and all that kind of stuff, those are Pro features, but you don't have to have those. You can work without those, and that's perfectly fine. If you decide that you do want to buy it, it's only showing me the free trials. Where is... Oh, did they take it off the screen? They used to have on the screen. There we go. There it is. It's down the bottom. I was going to say, they used to have it on the screen so I could show people. Oh, please. Okay. There we go. $25. It's a $25 tool, and I've only shown you part of what it's going to give you. So just to get that out of the way, because I know that there's somebody out there that's going, but wait. So now let's talk about what else you get out of this tool. And that is, what should we do first? Let's do the screenshots. So let's say, let me bring back. So let's say that you needed, for whatever reason, to take a screenshot of Snagit. Now, you can get other tools. Ironically, actually, this is probably a bad example because this is actually a tool. Here, let's do this. Let's say you need a screenshot of this, right? And maybe you had gone ahead and you had done your telestrating on it, right? And you needed to share that. And here, we'll even do different size, right? This guy goes here. And this guy's going to drop back, okay? So let's say you needed a screenshot of this. You would not need to get a tool like Snagit, which you all know I also love, because this has a capture tool built into it. So you can just come in here and grab it, and it saves it. In part of the settings, you can tell the tool where you want your screen caps to be saved. So you can have an ask where, you can tell it to always save to a certain place, but it's a screen grab tool too, so it serves multiple purposes. One of the reasons I'm recommending this to a lot of people right now for the kits they're putting together for back to school is students or teachers can use this type of thing to go ahead and mark up something, right? So a document, an image, whatever's on their screen, they can then take a screen cap of that to include it into a document or a presentation or whatever. So you're getting multiple uses out of a tool like this, and that's why, for $25, like, this is the kind of thing I think people will find helpful. So let's keep going. Let's go back. There we go. So the screen capture tool, for me, this screenshot thing is a really nice little bonus. The other thing that I find really helpful And I know my teacher and educator friends, my online presenters, my content creators are going to love this. That is, it comes with a built-in whiteboard. So the whiteboard can be either white or it can be a blackboard, depending on your preference. And you can do all of the things that you would expect to be able to do, right? So you can draw, right? You can use all of the tools that you had. Here, let's try that one. Yeah, let's try that one. And let's adjust the size. So all the tools that you just saw me using, you can also use as part of your blackboard. Or, if you prefer, your whiteboard. So, why would you want this? Like, why is this such a big deal? Well, whiteboards, blackboards, anytime you need to collaborate, that's where people tend to go, right? That's sort of like, okay, we're doing a group thing. Okay, we need a whiteboard. And that's really one of the things, like I've heard a lot of people, we have to be in the office so we can get together and stand around the whiteboard. No, we can do the whiteboard right here. So some examples of how you might want to use a whiteboard for any kind of collaboration, right? Brainstorming. If you want to do some interactive exercises, you can use that. If you need to sketch out an idea, right? So you've started with some stuff maybe from a presentation or whatever, and the conversation has moved on. So maybe you just want to start with sort of the blank piece of paper and just start drawing things out. Flows, layouts, diagrams, whatever. You can do all that kind of stuff there. It's also good for just like tracking ideas. So whether, people are like throwing ideas out, you can use the text tool to write them down so that they're all in front of everybody. Nobody forgets anything. Or you can just, write them like you would with a pen on a whiteboard. You can also play games, right? So again, whether you're doing this in an education setting, an office setting, or with your friends and family, you can use it to actually play the game, right? So something like Hangman, which may not be politically correct anymore. I've seen people do it with like drawing a picture of a flower. I've seen people drawing snow people. So however you do that kind of thing, but anything that you would do, with a pen, you can play those kind of games. You can use it for tracking scoring, that type of thing. So for me, like having I'm surprised they didn't charge for the whiteboard separately. To be perfectly honest, I'm impressed that they just threw that in as part of their basic tool set, because it is the kind of thing that they could have charged separate for, right? They could have made that a standalone product or an add-on or whatever, and they didn't. They put it in there as part of the deal. And like I said, for those of you who are just joining late, if you're looking, so I'm recording this, what is it? It is August 4th. Until the end of this month, they're offering a discount for everybody. And actually, you know what? I should probably just for giggles. 1 second. You can actually get a discount on this, which is kind of freaking amazing. Hang on 1 second. Let's go back to that. Okay. And it is back to, what is it? Back to school. If you put in this code, you will get, oh, I didn't put it in the right place. Hang on. No, it's back to, not the number. Well, what if this works? I've never tried this. Hey, it does work. Cool. So if you put this code in, the code and the link are in the description. But if you put that in, you get 30% off. Now, I have seen this company do 20% off and 25% off. 30 is not their typical discount. So yes, if you want, here we go. Now I'm just playing because I can. 30% off. You put that code in, and there you go. You've got your discount. Now, that is only good till the end of the month. But if you're watching this within that month, hey, there you go. You got yourself a bonus. So there is that. I distracted myself from my conversation about whiteboards, but I think we kind of covered everything, right? What you can use it for, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, it's the kind of tool that once you start using it, you're going to be like, how did I ever live without it? And those are my favorite tools, right? Because, hey, why not? All right, so let me just see. So again, Facebook, I'm sorry, but it's not coming through again. I don't know why. I don't know why Facebook has been such a problem right now. And Jason, you know what I'm talking about. So let me just give you a couple of, I guess it's just one extra tip, right? So if you start using a tool like Epic Pen or another one. Sometimes people run into a problem, or they think they're running into a problem with the tool because it's not showing. So, for example, if you're trying to share in some kind of a meeting tool, right? Zoom, Skype, Teams, whatever, WebEx, and you're drawing away and people are like, we're not seeing anything. The odds are, instead of sharing your screen, you chose to share just the application or just the browser. So if you're going to use a tool like this, you're going to want to make sure that anytime you're in a sharing situation, that you are sharing the screen and not just an individual tool. So that's just an extra little free tip here, because it is something I see people do when they first start using something like this. And so now you won't have that problem because you're ahead of the game. All right, so that's what I have for you. I just can't recommend this enough. Try the free. Go to the website, try the free. The link is in the description. It's just epicpen.com. And give it a try. It is the type of thing that if you've not used it before, it will take you a little time to get used to it. So make use of the free. Try it out. There's no time limit on it. You can use it free forever, frankly. But give it a try. Get into a rhythm with it. And I highly recommend the shortcuts. If you're a keyboard person like I am, the shortcuts really make it a lot easier to work with, I find. But give it a try, work it into your flow. And then, you can see whether or not, it works for you. I'm guessing it will. But whether or not you need the extra features, in which case, then it's $25. Or really all I did, I paid the $25 because I'm a firm believer in support your devs, right? When I find a tool like this that just absolutely fits a need that I've had, I have no problem firing them off the money, especially when it's something like $25. I'm like, really? Okay, yes, you can have this money. So just think about it, give it a try. I cannot recommend it enough. It is well named. It is epic. And it is something that you will, if you do anything like this, you'll find very helpful. I will say, just as an aside, it's also entertaining if you're maybe, on a Zoom call with your family, because it might theoretically be possible that you could, give your sister a mustache and long hair, or a funny hat for your brother while you're talking. I'm just saying, not that I'm suggesting you do this type of thing, but it is, within the realm of possibility. So there's a lot of ways to have fun with this kind of thing. So, yes, I would never do that to you, Murphy, I promise. But it's just, a little extra added bonus. If you need a little stress relief, it can be a lot of fun. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I am here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Boy, I didn't do my whole spiel here. I'm here every Thursday, 8 p.m. If you have an idea, if you have a topic you want me to cover, if you have a question, you go to yourtechcoach.com. There's a form there. You can just let me know. And I am happy to share and help and do anything I can. And frankly, the best topics come from the questions that you folks ask, so please go ahead and do that. I will see you next Thursday. I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope that your summer is going well. Yes, I know, I'm sorry. To all of the kids out there, I'm sorry I said back to school, but it's happening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Where's my magic button? There it is.